There are trends, and then there's just fun, but it really sounds like you should pay attention to the Bearcats men's basketball team's fast-paced offense.
You are Locked On Bearcats, your daily podcast on the Cincinnati Bearcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bearcats. My name is Jeff Carr, and I'm all Cincinnati all the time. I've worked in multiple university athletic departments, and I've been a football season ticket holder for the Bearcats for 7 seasons now. And I'm glad that you're alongside me here today. Locked On Bearcats is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Bearcats, every single day. And on today's show, Russ Heltman joins us to talk some basketball because it's the off week for football, and quite frankly, basketball season is going, and I love me some Bearcats basketball. And with the season beginning, we're going to break down exactly what will happen between now and March later on in the show. In just a few minutes, we'll discuss how much depth is enough depth on the basketball court. But we'll begin with the trends to watch or simply just enjoy early on here in the basketball season on today's episode that is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download FanDuel today. And today, we have joining us one of the most trusted voices around Clifton. He's back. Russ Heltman. Russ, what you got for me, man?
Excited to be back. Excited to roll through some basketball topics. We haven't talked about basketball very much on the show because there's only so much time that we get allotted here, and there's a lot of football excitement that's been happening the past few weeks. But one game in the books for the Bearcats basketball team, completely brand new team. I've seen them on the floor a couple times over the past couple months, but really was the first time I got to see them kind of in action, as I wasn't able to make it to any of the road exhibitions. So exciting Monday night, and it should be an exciting Friday night as well, and what should be another absolute drubbing at home for the Bearcats basketball team.
Yeah, I loved what they did exhibition-wise, like going to Michigan, going to Arkansas, really challenging themselves in those games because, you know, it feels like there's a lot of teams that take those exhibitions and they play home games against like NAIA schools or something like that just to feel good about themselves. But I like how they challenge themselves, and it set them up nicely for the beginning of the season because Western Carolina, Georgia State, not necessarily the powerhouses that are going to push this Bearcats ball club. And I thought the first game performance was a lot of fun, but there were also some concerns. And then there were also some interesting points that I'm like, okay, is this a trend or were we just having fun against Western Carolina? And I want to start with that fast-paced offense. I know that you got the chance to talk with Shon Abaev and Mustafa Cham and Coach Wes Miller there after the game. And I know that all of them, to an extent, commented on how much they want to run. And as far as Wes Miller is concerned, that's like the moon for him. So I'm really glad to see it.
I mean, people who have followed my coverage for the past couple of years have known I've wanted this team to run. I've wanted them to do that. I've asked Wes Miller about it, and there was a thought process that they would do that last year going into the year. They discussed that, and then it just slowly but surely became more methodical. But now they got the horses to go out there and actually run up and down the floor consistently. And I look at Keyshawn Chillery, Kirk Kriesa, Sincere Harris, the Day Thomas, those guys in the front court now, I think are pretty much greenlit and unleashed to go push up the floor. We saw that on Monday night. Kirk Kriesa was trying to get that ball moving up the floor quickly. Same with Day Thomas. Baba Miller in transition, thundering towards the rim. They were getting downhill at a higher rate and getting shots off at currently the 7th highest rate in the entire country for any offense so far this season. Had about 80 possessions against Western Carolina, 59 total field goal attempts, 30 total free throws, and 28 of those 59 being from deep. That's the shot diet you want to see if you're a Bearcats fan. There were some mid-range jump shots mixed in here and there, but a lot of those from Shon Abaev, who as of right now has the green light for me to shoot from anywhere on the floor after posting the highest point total by a Bearcats freshman in their debut since Sean Kilpatrick's 21 back in 2010.
It's a pretty good company to be included with there.
Shon Abaev had 18 on Monday night to nail down.
I love the shot. The shots that he were taking, they were all very different. And I mean, he had that one from the corner that was like a little bit of a turnaround jumper. And I'm like, oh,
I asked him, I was like, what's your favorite shot to hit, Sean? And I was like, is it the dunk? Is it a three? Just because it's the most points? He's like, any step back jumper is my favorite. I'm like, yeah,
Nice.
I can see that. It's one of the cleanest step backs in the country.
So we're gonna see a lot of that. I'm excited about that. But yeah, you're right. Like the Creasa outlet passes that he had just really made an imprint on me, and something that I remember because I'm like, man, I know we got Brady Lichtenberg and all, but if Brendan Sorsby ever goes down, maybe Kurt Creasa gets a look. I mean, he has a nice arm there. The way he was.
And just the lack of hesitancy from Kirk Creasa. You could see the veteran mentality on the floor, the veteran ability to control the pace of a game. Quick release, as you mentioned, came out and I think hit 2 threes in the first 3 minutes of the game. No lacking of confidence from Kirk Creasa, especially with how healthy he is right now. Knock on wood. And obviously, Sincere Harris dealing with an injury that I'm sure we'll touch on. And I would be shocked to see him play on Friday night, just given the way he exited that game and how little they're probably going to need him against a Georgia State team compared to about a week from now when they're facing off, a little less than a week from now, facing off against Dayton, the first real test of the season. But I'm loving what I saw from this backcourt. The only real downside that you get from this kind of pace is the 15 turnovers. You don't love to see that. 4 from Day Thomas, 5 from Mustafa Cham. Got to get the young center to clean that up a little bit out there. But overall, that's something that can be fixed. And those 2 guys were the only players with 3+ turnovers in the entire game. Shon Abaev with 2 himself as well. You're going to expect that from a freshman in his first couple games of the year. So these are all issues that can be easily fixed, I think. And what you can't fix is a slow pace that leads to methodical offense and just drug out kind of late in the shot clock, don't know what you're doing offense. We saw that so many times last year. We've seen that way too many times in the Wes Miller era. It feels like maybe, just maybe, he's going to give his guys the leash to go out there and make some more mistakes with the ball on offense, but also, like we've seen with the Bearcats football team, score at a higher rate, score at a quicker rate, and put their team and their program in a better position overall.
Yeah, I feel like how different they looked on offense was more than just a one-off thing. And then, of course, after the game, Shon Abaev, kind of said, like, this is what we talk about every single day in practice. So I loved to hear that.
Right. And they played 11 guys in that game on Monday night. That's a lot of guys. And Wes Miller said that maybe they're going to be trending towards the 9 to 11 player rotation here, especially playing at that high a pace. You're going to have guys getting a little bit more fatigued. So there's a lot of guys on this roster that are scholarship players at that as well. So it's a good problem to have when you're playing that fast. You can also mix in some more guys and get them more minutes.
Joining Shon Abaev at 18 points for that game was Baba Miller, and I was really impressed with what he put forth. And again, this was one of those things where you're just like, is this just Western Carolina, or can we expect this? Because part of his game that I did not – I don't know much about his game coming into UC, but I didn't hear a whole lot about this in the preseason was Duke can handle the ball, and it was clear that is not nothing. So is he a guy that you're like, dude, this guy – he gonna go?
Yeah, he's kind of like I would say a leveled up version of Dylan Mitchell on offense. He's not going to bring you the same defensive impact, I would say, close to the same defensive impact, but not quite the same. He's not going to be the steal guy. I don't think he's going to be getting out in transition, pushing the pace as much as Dylan Mitchell was, and as much as we've seen him so far do at St. John's, with them not having any kind of point guard to roll with, and him taking a lot of the ball handling duties there in the Big East to start his newest stint in college basketball. But getting back to Baba Miller, just the fluidity, the athleticism, the ability to go around guys in the half court off the dribble is something that we haven't seen very much of from this team over its first 2 years in the Big 12. Having that option is huge. Went 7 of 9 from the floor. Only 2 misses were from deep. And I think he literally only took dunks and basically layups and threes. I'm just like, you just can't speak any better language to me as a basketball player than dunks and threes, baby. Dunks and threes, and he went over 2 from deep. Wes Miller saying that he can hit that 3 ball, obviously has the green light to shoot it, and we should see him start knocking some of those down. It could have been an even bigger night, 20-plus point night for Baba Miller had the 3 ball been cooking.
And I'm betting he's going to play a little bit more. Like you said, there were 11 guys who got into that first game. We will see Baba Miller play more as the opponents kind of tick up in difficulty. And so that is the chance for him to go 20 points. It feels like he I'm not going to say this because I don't think this is part of the trend. I think the trend is he's awesome. The thing that I have an eyebrow raised about, and I kind of want to see more of it, can he be a walking double-double? That's going to be the thing, because I know that they got out-rebounded in that game. I don't expect that moving forward, but I found that at least a little bit intriguing.
Yeah, and I got to wonder if that's maybe the speed of the offense impacting the offensive glass a little bit. You look at the overall offensive rebounds, 14-7 for Western Carolina in favor of them, only 7 offensive boards for the Bearcats. Getting used to that pace a little bit more should help guys get closer to the rebounding impact that we saw from Baba Miller, who had 10 boards in this game. Nobody else had more than 5 from the Cincinnati Bearcats. I mean, Mustafa Cham, we need you around 7 to 8 boards with how great a defensive player you are and how much you can mine out space in the paint to be able to box guys out and get those rebounds. So expect a higher rebounding total from Mustafa Cham throughout the season. And same with Shon Abaev. I'm looking for Shon Abaev to use that 6'9" frame. I mean, he is every bit of 6'9" out there on the floor. They can roll out some massive lineups, and I expect them to do that throughout non-conference and the conference slates and be a better rebounding team. It just seemed like guys weren't as in sync with where players were going to be boxing out from, where they're going to be rebounding from. A couple more games under their belt should have the rebounding totals looking a little bit more palatable. But yes, the rebounding and the turnovers, the 2 biggest things to work on. And it's always good to win by 31 and easily cover the betting spread and have 2 clear glaring issues to work on in practice. So the best of both worlds for Wes Miller and his staff.
But a key theme with all of this is depth. And it's clear that they flexed their depth early on in game 1. They're going to do it again against Georgia State on Friday. And the legitness of the 10, 11 deep players that Wes Miller can go is going to be key as they really get into those tough tests coming up here in just a little bit. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business are at your fingertips. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times make sure that you don't punt projects, while their industry-leading customer service can always cover your blind side. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. And their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support lines make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for a free account and use the promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Thank you for making Locked On Bearcats part of your everyday routine. If you don't already do so, I encourage you to subscribe right here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app. Become an everydayer. If you are an everydayer, you rock. And thanks for making us your first listen and all that great stuff. All right, Russ, one of the things that we saw was 11 guys even. I know that Aveline Gillette really got onto the – and I really hope that I said that right. Aveline Gillette got onto the floor
pretty close.
A little bit. We even saw a three-pointer from him. I'm not sure if that's really going to be a plan moving forward, but that was intriguing. And with all that being said, like I think that, Dan Horde and Mo Egger did a great job of talking about this on the radio broadcast. While they might not go 11 deep in conference play, they could certainly go at least 8 deep, maybe even 9.
Right. You got Dede Thomas, Shon Abaev, Kirk Kriesa, Baba Miller, Mustafa Cham as your kind of go-to starting 5 right there. Sincere Harris will be mixed in as a guy who I would expect to play in crunch time a lot this season when he gets healthy. Keyshawn Chillery, I haven't mentioned him, that's 7. And then take your pick from Tyler McKinley, Jordy Rodriguez, Jalen Celestine, and Javi Zealot as that 8th guy in a hardcore rotation there. Tyler McKinley showed a lot of good stuff to me in this game. 5 rebounds, only took 2 shots, but really active defensively, I thought, in his first real game action at Cincinnati. I thought the knee looked fluid. He moved really fluidly as an athlete, so I don't think there's anything to worry about there. Just going to be wearing, I would imagine, the big knee brace throughout this season and maybe beyond, just as a big precaution. But this is once again, very, very deep roster. And just maybe Baba Miller or Shon Abaev can be that star that scores for you in those moments when Cincinnati's offense went completely cold down the stretch of many of their losses last season and the previous season.
Yeah, we're really keying in on those guys, but even going back to, like you mentioned, the eighth guy, there might even be the argument that McKinley and Jordi Rodriguez can really bring something to the table, because Jordi Rodriguez flexed a nice shot. Like, he looked like he could be a nice catch and shoot dude out on the perimeter. He had a couple of interesting fouls that it looked like, okay, he's just getting used to the game a little bit. Because it's a little bit different, coming from FIBA over here to the
take
NCAA.
fouls. Wes Miller mentioned that after the game, how he's still got to get used to some of the FIBA rules. But I mean, it's just like, can we just normalize all the rules? Everything should be FIBA rules. All the basketball rules should be FIBA rules. And that's me getting on my soapbox a little bit. But if people just watch international basketball, well, next time it's around, obviously we got to wait another few years for the Olympics, but when you watch Olympic basketball or FIBA basketball, it is so much better to watch as a product than any other form of the game. And I wish they would adopt those rules at the NBA and college level, but we're stubborn, so we don't.
Well, you got no argument for me on that one. I totally agree on that. Having seen some like former players from different alma maters and stuff like that going overseas and watching them play, I'm like, man, that game looks a lot more fluid. And it's clear that Jordi Rodriguez is a fluid player, but going back to Sencire Harris, you mentioned him, man. I immediately, and I think you said this, and I think Chad said this, and a lot of folks that had seen him in the preseason and in like camp and all that stuff, they're like, man, people are going to fall in love with him immediately. I did. I'm all in on Buck Harris, man. Like, I know it was 9 minutes, but he played at 150%. He was so much fun to watch, and I'm really hoping that wrist, like you mentioned, we probably won't see him against Georgia State, but I really hope that wrist is healthy enough for him to play against Dayton.
No doubt. I hope I'm wrong about Georgia State, and they put pie in my face, and he actually gets out there, because I mean, he's on the mend much faster than maybe projected coming off of that game. But obviously the X-rays were negative, so it's just some kind of big. It's either a contusion or a sprain or something like that, but no broken bones in there. So that's good to see. Shouldn't hopefully be, knock on wood, a major issue or multi-week issue for Sencire Harris. But I mean, he looked like every bit of Gary Clark, Troy Copain, those throwback UC kind of bulldog guards that every single fan falls in love with every 4 years that they get one into the program. So Sencire Harris, 6 points, 1 for 1 from the field, attacked the rim with, I would say, a reckless abandon. We need to maybe bring that into a regular abandon and not reckless abandon. I said on press row before he got hurt, I was like, this is Western Carolina, my guy. We do not need to be going this hard at the rim against Western Carolina. And then, of course, unfortunately, goes too hard, falls down on the wrist awkwardly and busts it up. So you never want to tell a guy to take 15 off the top or take anything off of their intensity. And Sencire Harris seems like one of those guys that kind of channels his intensity a la Russell Westbrook, where it's 150 miles an hour all the time. And maybe that's just what you're going to have to deal with Sencire Harris and the injury risk in that factor. But got to the line as much as any Bearcat in the game in just 9 minutes, 6 free throw attempts. That's pretty good to go with. I think he had 3 steals or 2 steals, multiple steals in less than 10 minutes of action. You're going to be probably seeing about a steal every 5 minutes of floor time for Sencire Harris, as arguably the best on-ball defender in the entire Big 12 at the guard position.
I was going to say, on top of that, and like you mentioned, the ability to draw fouls and stuff like that, that is a bit that you don't talk about a whole lot. But in those big games, like when they play Houston and when they play, and I know Houston doesn't foul a whole lot, but like when you play those teams, getting key guys into foul trouble with guys like Buck Harris coming off the bench, like it feels like that's going to be an extra level that the Bearcats just haven't been able to provide in the last couple of years. And so long as he hits his free throws with with good regularity, kind of feels like that's going to be a weapon for them to use, outside of the fact that he really is a good on-ball defender and could maybe knock down a few threes here and there.
No doubt. I mean, Day Thomas not getting to the rim very often and not getting to the free throw line very often. Jizzle James last year didn't get to the free throw line really at all. I believe he had like 1.5 free throw attempts per game as the lead ball handler, guard attacking force on this team. That's just not good enough at all. And we've already seen the lead ball handlers get to the rim at a much higher rate in this game than before. I mean, Jordy Rodriguez got there 7 times. Sincere Harris mentioned 6 times. Mustafa Cham got there for 7 attempts, 6 attempts for Baba Miller. I mean, these guys were getting to the rim and getting after it. And you just need at least one of those guards to kind of be able to flip the balance of power from the front court and the back court, be able to throw some chaos action in there in the midcourt, in the half court aspect of the offense. And Sincere Harris looks like a guy that could do that and be able to get to the free throw line if we can keep him healthy. Got to keep him healthy out there, and maybe take 15 off the top, especially against teams outside the top 200 in Ken Palm. There is no reason to be doing any of that, but I get it. A lot of these guys only have one speed, which is for the most part why they're playing at this high level in the first place.
Yeah, that's why it makes some sense you saying like he's not going to play against Georgia State, because it does feel like Wes Miller is like, and he really does need to calm down, but I don't want to tell him to do that and get used to that. So maybe just calming him down is sitting him against Georgia State. But overall, very impressed with him. Impressed with a lot of what I saw in that first game. Georgia State's going to be telling us, can they build on things like that? Can they clean up the turnovers, clean up the rebounding and all that good stuff? It's going to be a little bit easier to do that against them than against Dayton, but I like how the schedule is unfolding for them. And we're going to get way ahead of ourselves coming up next, because we're going to tell you whether you can trust this Bearcats team making the NCAA tournament. And it might be the bye week for Bearcats football, but there's plenty to look at for Bearcats basketball and the Big 12 as a whole over on FanDuel, because with football season and basketball season going on, there's plenty of action to get in on over at FanDuel. And if you're a new user to the website, you can place a $5 wager, and if it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. You can even look at futures. I was looking at the odds for the Bearcats, where they have them at possibly winning the Big 12 conference in basketball. Right now, the Bearcats are at 35-1 to win the Big 12. That's going to be a tough one. But hey, if you want to sprinkle a few bucks over on FanDuel over there, I encourage you to do so and find a Bearcats money line and place $5 for your first wager to get that $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's FanDuel. Download that app today. I encourage you to keep the conversation going with myself and with Russ after the show is over. You can follow us both on Twitter. You can follow me at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs, and you can follow Russ at Russ Heltman 11. You can also follow the show on Twitter at LO_Bearcats. All right, Russ, we're going to get real hasty here. We're going to get ahead of ourselves, and we're going to say, March, is it going to be fun? I'm not talking about the CBI. I'm not talking about the NIT. I'm talking about the NCAA. We going dancing?
I think so. I got them at 20-11, 11-2 in the non-conference slate. Only losses are to Clemson and Louisville. And then I have them going 500 for the first time in the Wes Miller era. Actually, I think they might have gone 500 their first season, but 9-9 in this slate. I think they mix in enough Q1, Q2 wins to sneak in there as one of the final kind of 10, 11 seeds in the NCAA tournament. And they get into the mix here, but I don't know, man. It's just going to come down to like 2 or 3 games once again. But at this point, from what I've seen, I'm not worried about the depth. We know about the depth. We've seen the depth from Wes Miller. I believe in Shon Abaev. I think he can be that go-to scorer, and that's the reason why I have them in the NCAA tournament, because I think he will be the difference in enough games. Maybe it's Baba Miller as well. One of them will be the difference in enough games to push Cincinnati over the top and be that star that can create offense in the half court when things break down, an option that they have not had really at all this entire decade. They have been searching for that player. And when you land a talent like Shon Abaev, you're hoping they can look like that early on. And that's exactly what we've seen from the highest rated recruit in the 24/7 sports era, just behind Lance Stevenson.
Yeah, I was really happy with how the Bearcats went about the Western Carolina game, obviously covering it and all that other stuff. I'm not super worried about the overall score itself. I just love how they attacked the offensive side of the ball.
And it's this first week,
so
man,
refreshing.
It's so tough to get any real conclusion on what the team's going to be. This is the Western Carolina, for example, is ranked 290th entering the game on ESPN's Basketball Power Index and 204th on Ken Palm. So a massive discrepancy there. And then you look at Georgia State, 332nd on Ken Palm entering this game on Friday night. I mean, we are literally still in the preseason.
And for context, there's 364 teams. So
Georgia
State's not that far from the bottom there. I think some folks would remember NJIT from back in the day. So
I think they added a team this year too, 365. It grows like every year. We're going to be at 400 here soon. It's 400 with 100 teams making the NCAA tournament. We're never soon, Jeff. We're never going to have to worry about this question again, because if the Bearcats miss the NCAA tournament and what the new format's going to be, the coach may just be getting axed right away.
Mid-season fire, yeah, because that's going to be so tough to miss. That's the thing that I miss. I do miss a little bit of that exclusivity, the feeling that, all right, making the tournament, it's going to mean something. This does feel like that last year that you can really claim that.
Right. This is the perfect sweet spot. Just keep it this way.
Exactly. They don't need more. They don't need more, because quite frankly, I think that you need to have some sort of resume that you have to build to earn it. And you're right. Like, when we get to that expanded universe of the NCAA tournament, 20-11 is going to be like, you're so far in. We're not even worried about, are you the first 4 in or next 4 in or whatever. You're just in, and you're not even worried about the bubble. The bubble is going to be teams that are like 500 on the whole for the season. And so that's going to be weird for me. I don't know, but I'm with you. I think that they make the tournament. I really think they've got a lot of fun talent, and the second level of talent that they have coming off the bench is going to be good enough to keep them in a lot more games than we saw them in last season.
Like Jordy Rodriguez is probably the best 7th option that they've had this entire decade, for sure. If not definitively the best. So it's just, they got to break through at some point. Like, it's just, you got the investment they've made this year, the coaching changes, and it's just, I think it happens this year. But you know what? Every single year we get to the doldrums of January, they fall flat on their face for a 3-game losing streak, and it's just grind session the rest of the season, trying to get back to above the bubble line, and they haven't been able to do it. Got to avoid that 3 to 4 game mid-January, late January, early February losing streak that they tend to go on both years that they've been in the Big 12.
And that 9-2 non-conference mark kind of feels like the right call, like expecting them to lose a couple of those bigger non-conference games that are on the slate. But at the same time, if you go into Big 12 play at 9-2, you are not necessarily playing with house money, but you're a little bit ahead of the 8 ball when it comes to
11-2.
Or sorry, 11-2. Yeah. You got 9. I'm not sure. I think I was thinking of 9-9 with the conference. Anyway.
It's hard with the 18 conference games and the 13 non-con, and then they make you play 30. It's just such a weird number, 31 total games, which is going to 32 next year. They're actually going to make it an even number for everybody.
That's at least a little bit better. I wish it was the nice round number of 30, but 32, right. That's fine. You at least make it even. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that this team is a tournament-bound team, assuming they don't go through some just horrible luck one way or the other.
Right. Of course, the injury bug has already bit a little bit on Sincere Harris. That's the big thing. If they have 3 to 4 major injuries, then obviously, it's a wrap. At
that point, you'd shrug your shoulders and you're just like, all right, what are you supposed to do against that? But I'm excited about this season. Looking forward to seeing how they cover against Georgia State. Still looking for the line, though. I haven't seen it on FanDuel. Have you seen?
It'll probably drop around 4 or 5 p.m. on Thursday afternoon is usually when it comes out the day before. I'm going to do my line projection. I'm going to say 31 points is going to be the line for the Bearcats. They're not going to set a low 20s number again for this team at home. I
think they were covering at halftime with a 22 and a half.
Yeah, there was a first half line of 12 and a half, which caught my eye, to say the least. When I saw that going into the arena on Monday night, I'm like, if this team isn't up by at least 13 and a half, there's a major issue, and they were already dominating then. So yeah, it's just like all the metrics and the analytic models. Vegas still trying to get a handle on how good or bad these teams are in these massive discrepancy matchups. So I would expect a 30-point line at least in this game for the Bearcats, maybe 27 to 30, but 30 would be probably the palatable line where I would set it.
Early season point spreads, you gotta love them. They're a thing of beauty. But that's where we will end today's Locked On Bearcats podcast. Thanks again for checking it out. And if you've not yet done so, please subscribe and like and comment and do all the things. Help out the algorithm so that Bearcats fans can find this show more easily. Now, for your next listen, check out Locked On Big 12. Drake Toll has the most exciting conference in all of college sports, broken down every single day from the championship game and every rivalry game and everything in between. Find Locked On Big 12 on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's just like Locked On Bearcats because we're all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys on the next show.